Are you recording yourself? Like what? How
yes,
is that
the recording is pretty crucial. I have to say the recorder is the best professor for preparing for the competition, because then you can hear actually what you are playing, what your imagination tells you how it sounds and how it sounds for real.
I'm really thrilled to bring you today's conversation with my first guest from Poland and someone I've spent some time with this past year, actually, Marek Romanowski. I'm Jason Heath. This is Contrabass Conversations, and Marek and I were actually housemates in Dallas for the Bradetich Competition, the second international Bradetich solo competition. Marek was a finalist for this. It was such a phenomenal crew that participated in this competition. It was so great to see Marek move through the preliminary and the semifinal into that final round. He played Frank Proto's amazing Paganini variants, such a cool piece. And so we've actually put out that on the podcast and featured Marek talking a little bit on the podcast, but this is the first time he's been on as an interview guest, and we dig into solo competitions, his career, what he sees in the future, his work in the Polish National Radio Orchestra, and so much more. Such a great conversation. And I'd like to give a shout out to Robertson & Sons, Upton Bass, and Dario Strings, our sponsors for today's episode. More on them later. And let's dig into this conversation with Marek Romanowski. I hear you great. Yeah, you sound great.
Well, good to see you after a pretty long time, huh?
It has been. You know, it's funny because in some ways I feel like it's just a few weeks ago, but it's actually been 9 months.
That time flies pretty fast. It's crazy sometimes.
What have you been up to since the Bradetich competition?
It's pretty a lot of stuff. I've done pretty a lot of touring around the world. I was in China, in South Korea, in Germany, and in Switzerland with various orchestras.
Wow.
And since March, I started to play in the new orchestra based in Katowice, Polish National Radio Symphony Orchestra. I think I told you about it when I was in Denton, with a very good concert hall. So it's pretty interesting and pretty nice place to work, and also Academy of Music in Krakow, plus my PhD, which I'm finishing right now slowly, finally, after 4 years of writing and recording the CD. So yeah, it's pretty a lot of things going on, but I think thanks to that, the time really goes fast.
Yeah. Wow. What a schedule. And how cool. I saw on your website that you'd started playing with the National Radio Symphony Orchestra. What kind of a schedule is that? Is that are you performing every week, or is that?
No, it's very, very, very various. Right now we played 2 concerts because we have a festival in Katowice called Culture Nature, and the main theme of this festival this year is childhood. So we played. And the first concert, the opening concert, we played Symphony, Third Symphony by Mahler, actually the longest symphony he wrote. It's like 1 hour and 40 minutes of playing, and it's strongly based on some child songs and all this interesting stuff. And 3 days ago, we played another concert with kind of religious works. And next week, for example, we have a kids concert on Wednesday, with on another various works. The kids' concerts are always consisting of very different styles of music to be interesting for the young public. And on Sunday, next Sunday, we play the concerts with all music only by Debussy, Claude Debussy. So it's very, very random. It's not like we are playing every single week the concert. It's really variable.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of American orchestras as well. Like after we get done chatting, I'm going to play a family concert with the San Francisco Symphony, and then the previous 5 days we've been doing concerts for elementary age students, like 8 to 12 years old, maybe something like that. And getting one of the pieces we did was Marquez Danzón #2, and the conductor was encouraging the kids to get up and dance, which is kind of a hilarious thing to see. 2,000 kids dancing to that.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. So probably a lot of laugh also.
A lot. I've been laughing a lot this week. Yeah, it's a pretty.
We had one. It was like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. We had one pretty hard program because it was considering only the modern Polish music. It was really like a brain destroyer. Strange things we had to do during the performance, like talking, shouting, or making some sounds with the mouth, and also playing in the very strange ways. It's a very, very wide program presented by this orchestra.
I would love to know, how are modern pieces received in Poland in terms of the audience? Because I can tell you, here in the United States, it's really varied. Sometimes with a general audience, it's a very, very lukewarm, very not well received. Are people open to programs like that in Poland?
No, it really depends. Also, what kind of modern music it is, because right now there's such many different styles and ways to produce a piece. Like, for example, the Penderecki or Lutosławski pieces, they are usually very well received. Also depends on the particular style of the composer, because Lutosławski had two styles, one strongly based on the Polish folklore, which people actually really enjoy, and another, the aleatoric one, like his symphonies or the piano concerto or cello concerto. And that's the kind of pieces not everybody enjoys. And the same applies with Penderecki. Penderecki has also like two main styles of the composing. One is the kind of neoclassical way of composing, like his violin concerto, viola concerto, or symphonies, the Sans Luke or John Passions. And they're usually very, very, very well received. But pieces like Polymorphia or Threnody for Hiroshima victims, not always.
Okay.
But also there is one contemporary music festival in Poland held in Warsaw every autumn. It's called Warsaw Autumn. So this is one of the most important modern music festivals in Europe. So yeah, it's kind of like a place to be for every fan of this kind of music. Even John Cage was there twice or three times. I don't remember right now, but some Americans were also present in this festival.
Wow, that's cool. So, I mean, Penderecki and Lutosławski, those are two names that I know, and I've played a lot. I actually played in oh boy, I hope I can remember the name, but in Chicago, there's an orchestra that is devoted to playing Polish music. And I think it's the Penderecki Symphony is what it's called. I can't remember that. Yeah, I might be getting that wrong, but in one area of Chicago, it's just this incredibly large Polish population. And
that Chicago is the most Polish city in the United States. Like a lot of Polish people inside.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. There's the Copernicus Theater is the big theater in this neighborhood, and all around it are restaurants. Everything's in Polish. I mean,
I know. I saw the pictures. Yeah, it's like a small Poland in there.
It's amazing, and I've actually played shows behind some Polish rock stars. There's an orchestra behind them. People I might remember if I heard the name, but people I'd never heard of. But it was completely packed and really,
maybe some our local stars. So
yeah,
they're always getting the nice public, and they're touring abroad.
So it's great. So China, South Korea, Switzerland, these are all, you've been playing concertos with orchestras?
I was like a member of the orchestra. I was helping to the orchestras. One orchestra from Krakow. We had a tour to China and Korea and one concert in Krakow with totally 11 concerts.
Okay.
So it was pretty tiring, especially the China part, because we were there for 9 days and we played 7 concerts. So plus all the flights and moving from one city to another. China is a quite big country, so we came back from China really tired. But then we had to play one concert in Krakow with a different program. And then we went to South Korea to play 2 concerts with also a slightly different program. Only one piece that was staying for all the concerts was a symphony, Beethoven 7th Symphony in A major. So now I can play it by heart without the score.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That piece earlier in my career, I remember playing it. It was a pretty rough orchestra. We were playing Beethoven 7, and the first chord started, and it was supposed to be A major, and it was not A major. It was, I don't know what it was. I knew it was going to be a long 40 minutes.
In between, yeah. Yeah. But when I spoke with my horn friends, they also always said that this is actually a pretty hard symphony for them, because it's written pretty high for a horn. Mm-hmm. So the probably of not hitting the right note is pretty high.
Yeah. I've done a fair amount of touring with orchestras over the years. I remember playing. I was in Sapporo, Japan, in the summer, and so which is very, very hot. And you were mentioning Mahler 3. We played Mahler's 3rd Symphony outside in the middle of the summer in Japan during the day. One of the most miserable experiences of my life. It was a great experience in a way because it was Michael Tilson Thomas conducting, who's the San Francisco Symphony conductor. But I remember our principal bassist.
How did you survive that?
Oh, well, I know how our principal bassist was one of the older bass players in the Berlin Philharmonic at the time, and he was just backstage, just like drinking a beer before he started. That's how he got through it. I don't know. I lost a lot of water sweating that day.
I can imagine. I can imagine. But when we were in China, there was such a huge difference of the temperature between one city and another. Once we were in the city located pretty close to North Korea, and during the day it was like 5 degrees of Celsius, so it's pretty low. And the next city we moved on was just next to Macau, which is like almost exotic part of China, plus 30 degrees, a lot of humidity. So our bodies could not really adapt pretty well to this pretty fast switch of the temperature, such a huge switch.
And then you're hauling your bass around to all these places too. I'm assuming. Were you bringing?
Luckily, we didn't have to bring we didn't have to bring the basses with us. They provided us with some. Okay. Of course, right. There were not fine instruments because the China classical music market still needs a little bit of time to develop well. So once we received one double bass straight from the shop because they were missing some basses.
Oh no!
It was pretty interesting experience.
Wow. It's great that you're getting through that PhD work and getting close to done with that. Hopefully,
I really need to finish that because it's. I have even dreams about it, so it means that my brain is really tired with it.
Well, it was so fun hearing you play and hanging out. First of all, in Denton last fall, and then hearing you perform through all those rounds and the solo competition, and it was I was just chatting with Christine Hook about the upcoming Sperger competition, and you were the first prize recipient. You won the Sperger competition in 2016, right?
Yes, that's right.
What was that competition like? How was that set up? You had multiple rounds. Was it similar to the Bradetich competition?
Actually, the biggest difference between the Sperger and Bradetich was the way of choosing the program, because on Sperger competition the program you can perform is more strict. You can choose from list of the pieces, but you cannot put your own ideas inside. Of course, you have to play Sperger Sonata and Sperger Concerto because this is his competition.
Yeah.
Also, there was no live streaming of the final round, which I find it pretty fun and also motivating to really do your job on stage, because you know that people on internet can watch you. The temperature of the air during the competition was way more acceptable than this one in Denton.
Okay. It was pretty hot in Denton. Yeah.
Yeah. But actually, I like the high temperatures, but not when I have to practice or something. Also the surround the city is completely different. Ludwigslust and Denton. Ludwigslust is pretty small. It's really, really small.
Yeah.
Denton is pretty huge comparing to Ludwigslust.
Right.
And we were walking to every place because it was too close to take a car. But in general, the atmosphere was cool. I mean, like in Bradetich Competition as well. I don't know how it looks inside of the jury, because I don't know nothing about that. But yeah, the faces of the jury, they were of course a bit different, because in Sperger Competition, except Professor Bradetich, we had rather the European professors, and in the United States there were more Americans.
You know, and the repertoire thing I thought was really interesting about the Bradetich competition. It was really open in terms of what you could play, right? I don't remember.
I find it really, really good, because then you can really choose the pieces you are good on, and you can really not only express yourself, but also show your best side of playing double bass. So, the pieces we played, Beethoven, Ravel, Bruch and Paganini in the second round, or the variants on Paganini in the final round, which is one of my most favorite pieces for double bass and orchestra. So I was really extremely happy to perform it. The main very, very huge difference between Sperger and Bradetich is there is no interview during the Sperger competition. It's like just playing. They are not they don't speak with the candidate, like asking questions or something.
I thought that was an interesting component, and you've done so many competitions, so you've seen how different competitions operate differently. But I did think it was interesting, and some of the questions they were asking you, like career aspirations. Yeah,
it was a little.
Hello, my name is Klaus Freudenstein. I'm a double bass player and educator based in Germany. I'm working in quite a lot of fields. So one is I'm the founder of the double bass quartet, the Bass Monsters. We are playing rock tunes on 4 double basses in a very chamber music way. And we're about to release a new CD with many real bass monsters playing on it. And I'm already very much looking forward to launch it. Have a look on the Bass Monsters website. Also, beside this, I'm the inventor of the mini bass. 15 years ago, I invented the so-called Freudenstein mini bass that you can also check out on minibass.com. Beside this, I'm also the writer of music. I have published some books. One is a method for the mini bass. It's called Mini Bass, available in Hofmeister Publishing, also in English language. And if you know someone that likes it in Chinese language, there is also an issue published. Also, I have published a piece called The Bass Hymn that should include many different player levels. So in one piece, you can play with professors on the double bass standing beside mini bass players that just started to play. Also, I have published a book called It's Christmas, with Christmas carols for double bass quartet. And soon there will be out a new piece called The Wolf. And also in this book is the piece Struct. Well, I'm also the organizer and artistic director of the Bavarian Bass Days that you can also check out in the internet, an international bass meeting with many styles. I was on the board of directors of the ISB for some years. Now I'm in the advisory board of the ISB, and for the ISB I also wrote articles in the bass world. I do international master classes and mini bass workshops, so you see it's a lot of stuff. Also my project Crossing Borders, which is a project that includes solo music for double bass in piano, that is all more or less arranged or written for me. And of course, beside this, I'm a teacher. I'm teaching quite a lot of students in all ages. And for all of that, I'm using Kaplan strings from D'Addario. I really love them, and also my colleagues in the Bass Monsters are very happy with them. We are using the Kaplan solo in the Bass Monsters, and for all the rest of the things that I'm doing, I use the Kaplan Heavy that really give me a powerful, deep and clear projecting sound. So far, that's it from my side. Thank you for listening. Klaus Freudenstein.
I was a little bit nervous, actually, I have to say, because I didn't know what to expect, what they will ask, and what kind of answers they will satisfy the jury the most. Of course, that creates a little bit of stress, and then you start to talk not really smart if you're too stressed. But I hope I didn't make it wrong.
Oh, well, you did.
Interview.
It was great. And actually, I took all the, we put out those videos of you playing and talking, and I put those together into one big podcast episode back in the fall too.
Yeah.
So people listen to podcasts, they've heard you answer those questions. But it was interesting. A couple, like one of them was just kind of based around where you see the role of the bass as a solo instrument going, how you see that developing. And I think it'd be interesting, because you're doing a lot of orchestral playing. You have done a lot of orchestral playing, but you're this fabulous soloist. You've won all these competitions. And like, where do you see the bass as a solo instrument going?
I think it's going in the right direction. Yeah. Maybe a little bit slow, but comparing to the possibilities that were given to bass players like 20 or 30 years ago, right now it's huge progress we have. And also more and more composition we can perform, not only Dietersdorf and Kusewicki, or maybe Van Hal.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So our program is starting to get really wide, and people like it. For example, when the people even not related to double bass anyhow or classical music, they hear a proto pieces or a Rota Divertimento Concertante, they are very happy with that, because this is something new. This is like kind of a modern music, but written in such a light way, such a acceptable way for people not really specialized in classical music, that I think it's a nice way to convince them to be interested in classical music in general.
I totally agree. And like, I think anybody would love hearing that Paganini variant by Proto. It's such a fun. Yeah. And just the text, the orchestration, it's as good a solo piece as I can think of, from a.
I think it's the very huge advantage of the orchestration that it's very colorful. It creates a lot of different plans, a lot of different emotions and atmospheres during just a 20-minute piece. And also the open cadenza, which you have to write by yourself. You can really show a lot of things during the cadenza. So, then not only convince people to the classical music, but also convince to the double bass that this is not instrument able only to produce low notes for the orchestra bass, that actually you can do a lot of interesting things. Right.
How the heck do you how do you even begin to practice for something like one of these competitions, like Sperger or the Bradetich? I mean, obviously you've learned most of this rep years before, I would assume, but like in the weeks and months leading up to one of these competitions, like, are you just practicing this music and nothing else? Like, how do you even get ready for something like this? I can't even imagine.
Before the Bradetich competition, it was at the beginning of September. But till end of July, I was on holiday, so I didn't have my double bass in my hands for 3 weeks. Some friends of mine, they told me that I'm crazy to do like that. But then, when I came back to Poland, I just took the repertoire. I'm always making like kind of schedule what pieces I will practice during this day, and which aspect of the all particular piece I would like to work on. So I'm not working like just to prepare one piece in 3 days. I'm always picking up one thing like intonation or interpretation or setting up the proper bowing or fingering like that. And let's say I'm doing kind of plan for 3 or 4 days, just checking how the progress is going on. Do I need to correct some of my plan or not? And I'm just actually concentrating only on the program to the competition. Of course, if I have to play something different, then I have to also to practice something different. But usually, I'm just practicing the competition program.
And you write out a schedule. You're figuring out ahead of time what to work on and how many. And I love. I mean, because you've obviously done so well in this arena. I think people love to hear like how many pieces maybe are you working on in a day? How many hours are you practicing those? Are you recording yourself? Like what? How is that time?
The recording is pretty crucial. I have to say the recorder is the best professor for preparing for the competition, because then you can hear actually what you are playing, what your imagination tells you how it sounds and how it sounds for real. Then you can make a lot of corrections, because this is kind of huge surprise when you are listening to your own records and it sounds completely different than you think it sounds. So the recording, of course, it's really, really important and really make your progress way faster. If it comes about the amount of time, it really depends. Usually, if I feel good and I feel that I can do, I can practice still like after 3 or 4 hours there, I'm continuing. But if I feel like this is not my day, like brain is not working pretty well or my hands are tired and they would like to get some relax, I'm just practicing like for 1 hour to play the scales, to keep the technique and the muscles in the shape, but not to over practice, because this is not good for preparing, because then you can't find the happiness of the performance. You are just feeling like a slave of the bass and the competition. And it's not all about this. This should be should bring a satisfaction, not be a like kind of punishment. Amount of pieces I'm picking daily. At the beginning, when I'm starting the new program for the competition, I'm just making like 1 round per day. Let's say we have 3 rounds. So like in Bradetich competition, 3 pieces in the first round, 3 pieces in the second, and 1 in the third. So of course the third round I'm leaving away for the first stage, let's say stage of preparation. I'm just switching day. In the first day, I'm practicing the first round. In the second round. Third day, first round again. And I'm doing like that till I feel that I can add the extra piece or connect 2 rounds in 1 day and then adding third round. Of course, it really depends how quick my progress is going. It depends on a lot of factors, so it's really hard to describe, like every minute what I'm doing.
Well, in terms of recording, are you throughout the process? Are you recording pretty much every day?
Maybe not every day, because then you have to listen to the record, and it's also a little bit time consuming, because you cannot just play the piece in the computer and start to do something different. We really have to take the score and really analyze what is wrong, what is right, or what could be better. And this is also kind of a thing that requires your brain to be fully concentrated. So I'm recording myself like every 3 or 4 sessions of the practicing. Like I'm doing a record, then practicing on particular things that I'm not happy with, leaving it to stay a little bit on my brain, and then performing it again with the recording, and then I see in which way my work is going on, if it's going in a good direction or wrong direction.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I found that if I record all the time too, but if I record too much, it's like it doesn't give me a chance to let the lessons sink in. And
you need also some space for just to practice, not only to listen there and listen to yourself again and again. Sometimes it needs time to grow up inside your imagination.
And when you first come to people love all these sort of details, so I want to make sure when you first come to the bass every day, when you first start to practice, you mentioned scale. Do you have a routine that you do every day, or do you just pick a couple scales and play through them? What do you do when you first pull the instrument out of the case?
Actually, I'm starting with the scales. Usually with the same scale, which is a C major scale. Why C major scale? Because it's one of the most easiest scales to play on double bass. And also it's pretty complex if it comes about the shifting, because you have some low positions, some middle positions, and also the thumb positions, which I like to come over to play a little bit, and also to keep my intonation on the instrument right. So I'm using like 3 octaves of C major scale. At the beginning, I'm starting just with the single notes. Then I'm practicing like legato notes, 2, 4, or 8. Then some short bow techniques like staccato or something, and also the vibration. I'm practicing vibration every day because it's really easy to get your vibration too fast or too short, and it's really crucial to practice this also every day, like to keep your muscles under your control, not to be controlled by your muscles.
Do you do the same fingering every day, or do you mix up the fingering as you go for the C major? Do you have set fingering?
Actually, sometimes I'm mixing. I'm mixing to make it a little bit more interesting. But I'm not changing too much of the fingering, because when I'm warming up, I am mainly concentrated on the color and the quality of sound produced. So I don't want to distract myself with figuring out the new fingering, to be more concentrated on my right hand.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. So I saw you play 3 great rounds, in Texas. What do you do the day of a round in terms of practicing, spacing out the time? Let's say you're playing at 2 p.m., for example. Like what would you typically do in a day prior to playing?
Prior to playing, or the day?
The whole day, yeah. Like from the minute you wake up until you actually play. What does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I'm taking as long sleep as I want, of course, and reserving like 3 hours prior to the performance to be ready to start to slowly warm up. So if I have to play at 2 p.m., it means that around 11 o'clock I would like to be at the place of the performance to slowly start to warm up. Of course, breakfast, all this stuff, and coffee, which is really important in my life.
me too.
I got a lot of coffee. Yeah.
In fact, actually, because I knew we were chatting today, my first cup of coffee today I had in my University of North Texas coffee mug that I got from Carrie and Tony Battaglia. So
yeah, so say my great compliments to them.
Well,
they were really great. It was really great to live in this place. So and after having a breakfast, coffee, shower, and all this stuff, I'm trying to reduce amount of things that could distract me from being concentrated on the performance. So like all the social media stuff, checking the emails, or anything that makes me somehow, not really concentrated. And I'm warming up, not playing anything in tempos on the day of the performance, not to find out that somewhere I have some problems with fingers or I don't remember the place. I'm just playing this slowly. And if I have to play with piano with the orchestra, it's a little bit different. But with piano, then I'm not playing the all pieces through. Actually, I'm just practicing a little of the beginnings, all these things, and really try to stay relaxed because, of course, I know that the moment of stress will come, so I don't want to start too early to spin up my my pulse in my vessels.
This episode is brought to you by Robertson and Sons Violins. For more than 40 years, over 4 decades, Robertson and Sons has specialized in providing the highest quality string instruments and bows to collectors, professional musicians, music educators, and students of all ages. Their modern facility, which is totally beautiful, by the way, if you're ever able to make it out to Albuquerque, New Mexico, I highly recommend it. They have a recital hall that they use not only for performances, but it's available to their clients. So if you want to try out a fine pedigree bass or even a student bass or anything in between, you can go in that recital hall. I've had the chance to do that. Totally amazing. I'm like a kid in a candy store when I'm down there at Robertson's. Check them out online at robertsonsviolins.com. And thank you so much for sponsoring the podcast. One thing that has impressed me about Upton Bass ever since I got to know them was how many artists there are out there that are so satisfied with the work that Upton has done for them. Here's Mark Ramirez on his experiences having Upton copy his beautiful Cavani bass.
I do a lot of moving around and giving master classes and stuff like this. I had a copy made of it by the Uptons, by Gary and Eric Roy at the Upton shop. They made a copy of it, but they made an even smaller copy. I think it's a 7/8 copy of the bass. I use it now. I use that bass for my solo playing, which I do a lot. Recently, I've been doing a lot, especially here. And it has a detachable neck. The detachable neck, man, I tell you, in Europe, it's the craze.
Learn more at uptonbass.com, and thanks for sponsoring the podcast, guys. I like most people I spin up, before a performance, and I have my Apple Watch, so I look at my heart rate sometimes, and I'll even see it get as high as like 130, which is pretty, like, does your heart start to race before a major performance?
Actually, yes, but what I have to say, the worst for me is not the performance itself. The worst is waiting for the performance. I hate this moment. Actually, it's really horrible to wait. Because when you are on stage, then you start to think a little bit over different things like playing, then you get into the music. And if you have a nice piano player or a good atmosphere in the audience, then you can really go into that. And somehow the stress, this high pressure goes away. But when you are just behind the stage, and you know that in 30 or 40 seconds you will have to go, and everybody will watch you. You will be like the most important point of all the whole. That makes me sometimes a little bit crazy. Till that I don't even want to speak with anybody before the performance. There are two kind of people. Some people likes to talk, not to concentrate before, like, on the performance, before they want to release a little bit the brain and have some fun, have some chat or go. I prefer to stay calm and isolated as much as I can before the performance.
That's super interesting. And talking with people that have taken a lot of auditions, which it's got similarities and differences for sure, but it seems like there are those two types of people for auditions too. Like people that it's kind of like a party right up until the moment and socializing, and then a lot of people that want to just kind of be isolated and go into their.
Yes, I'm definitely the second kind of the people. Of course, it doesn't mean that some kind is worse or better. It's just different. Some people have preferences to be social, as you said, and people like me, we like to live alone and don't come, don't talk, don't touch me, or don't want anything.
Yeah. So this is super fun. We have to do. I love having people on. I want to talk a little bit about just the Polish double bass scene, if that's okay, because I think it'd be interesting. But I want to have you back a second time and a third time and a fourth time. So I think of this like a talk show. It's great to have people back over and over. So there's no way we could possibly talk about everything that we've got to talk about, in one.
Yeah, there's a lot of things.
Yeah, but I've always been interested. I need to visit Poland one day. My relatives are all Polish. My grandmother spoke Polish. It was her first language. Tempinski was their last name on that side of the family. So I've always been interested. But I've never been, and you've been all over the world at this point, but you're working in Poland. Just tell me about maybe what the Polish bass scene is like. I know that's a really open question, but how is it maybe similar or different to other places you've been, or just what it's like in general?
Actually, the solo bass music in Poland, it's still not so popular. Like, for example, in Germany or in the US. I was thinking a little bit why it's going on like that. I think there are a couple of reasons. The first one is right now it's popular to perform Polish music in Poland, and as we don't have too much Polish compositions for double bass, we have only 5 concertos written by Polish people. And there are only modern pieces. There are not classical romantic pieces. That may be one of the reasons it's not pretty often performed. The second reason is I think the pricing of the material you have to hire when you want to perform pieces like Proto or Rota or Tubin, which is also pretty expensive because of the currency things, that the Polish zloty is not the strongest currency. The materials are pretty expensive for the orchestras, which usually they have pretty limited budget. So that's the other things, and also it really depends on the organizers of the concerts, of the artistic directors, or general directors what they want. They usually don't know the bass music, so they don't have this kind of imagination what can be done with the instrument. So they prefer to invite like violin players or piano players, even if they are playing the same concerto every year. They still prefer that instead of trying something new. But yeah, it's slowly starting to change. Also, as the double bass technique and way of playing changed a lot since past 20, 30 years. Right now we have better arguments to prove that actually it's a pretty nice instrument for a solo performance.
What sort of material, like technically speaking, technical materials are popular in conservatories or music schools in Poland? Like over here, a lot of people use the George Vance method or Simandl, or in some regions of the United States, ballet is popular. Are there anything that are really popular?
I think it really depends on the particular conservatory.
Okay.
Usually we are based on the Nani, Capriccios. There is also 3 or 4 sheet music consisting etudes for double bass brought together by one of the Polish double bass players and also a legendary teacher in here, Gadziński. Maybe the etudes are not the most beautiful pieces, but they are taking, this is not a good word. They require you to practice various things that you will use in the playing of the future pieces, like normal pieces. And the repertoire we are based on, it's of course Sperger music, which is pretty close to us. Adolf Miszek music, a lot of the Adolf Miszek. If it comes about the concertos, the Bottesini, of course, Kusewicki, Van Halsperger, and Dietersdorf, sometimes Rota. The pieces, the small pieces we played the most usually on the conservatories are Bottesini and Glier, the 4 pieces for double bass and orchestra. And the modern pieces, I think you know this Binden Hommage à Bach, and this is one of the most popular, and also Cadenza by Teppo Hauta-Aho.
Oh, yeah.
It's a really good piece.
It's a great piece.
Yeah, and Bach is also pretty often played in Polish conservatories together with Fryba, and some Polish music by Stefan Bolesław Poradowski, which is pretty popular in Poland. He wrote one concerto for double bass, pretty nice concerto with nice orchestration, and some capriccios for double bass. So yeah, this is like some examples of the pieces mostly performed on the conservatories.
Yeah, so not as much Bottesini as we see over here in the United States. It sounds like.
No, actually, the Bottesini pieces like La Sonnambula or Capriccio di Bravura, La Molinara, yeah, they are pretty popular, but not only.
Right.
We also like to play Glier because this is very good composition. All the 4 pieces by him. Yeah. Sometimes we play, as I played on the competition, the Paganini G-string variations, and the slow pieces like Kol Nidrei, which is pretty nice to be sounds pretty good on double bass. Or Rachmaninov is also pretty popular, the vocalist.
Wow.
Students also don't want to play too much Bottesini because they are tired with all this harmonic stuff. They don't want to do it over and over. So sometimes we just need to figure out how to satisfy them.
Right, and understandably so. And I think it's so. It's just so exciting for me to see pieces like the Proto Paganini, variants, and some of the other contemporary pieces that are, or Rota or some of these other compositions that are not just based around the harmonics. Because I too, though I love Bottesini, I've had my fill of G and D arpeggios up and down the bass.
Yeah, I think it's nice till some point. After that, you really need to leave that. I had a period in my studies that I played like Bottesini all the time, and at some point I thought I can't stand with the harmonics A major, E major anymore.
Right.
Just playing around. I would like something other.
Yeah. Understandably so. Let's definitely do this again. I actually wanted to ask: are you going to be in Lucca this summer? Are you planning?
I wanted to do it, but unfortunately, they moved the dates of the conventions from September. They moved it to July, as far as I remember. And in July, I will be in the middle of my holiday, which I reserved some time ago. So I can't be there, unfortunately. I think the September was way better date for that.
Yeah. Well, it's too bad that we won't. I hope you enjoy your holiday. Well, I'll be thinking about you while I'm in Lucca. We're going to be there. My wife's coming with me, and we're going to take in Tuscany and have an Italian vacation and see some bass.
I think you will enjoy Tuscany. It's a really beautiful region.
Well, maybe we can wrap this up, and then definitely let's talk again soon, because you're a busy guy. You're going to be up to more projects in the next year or 2 years. But I usually end with some sort of advice for young people out there, maybe somebody who's just starting conservatory, could be in Poland, could be in Europe, could be over here in the United States. Like, what advice would you give a young bass player just on the beginning of their starting their study?
That's a good question, because it's not only one advice I would like to give, but I think the most important thing is, of course, to practice a lot. Practice a lot, as much as you can. Use your time, because when you will finish studies and you will start the work, you won't have too much time to practice, and then you will start really to understand what a great possibility is to have one day just to practice and not doing anything else. This is the one thing. And the other thing is, don't be afraid to search for a new program, new repertoire, because it's really developing and really works on your imagination, also opening a huge gate to improve your technique. Don't be worried to play hard pieces, or don't listen to people if they say, oh no, it won't sound on double bass good, because they are just jealous. Just do your thing and use your imagination to push it as much as you can, and do as much competitions as you can as well, because it's not about the winning. It's not about being the best on every competition, but it really makes a lot of great things to your playing. It really gives you a lot of progress and motivates you to practice more and more. And also, thanks to that, you have a contact with double bass players around the world. So you are starting to be a really active member of all the society, the worldwide society, which I think really have a huge, great impact on you, on your personality, on understanding why people are playing in some part of the world like that, in another way, in another part.
Yeah, that's beautiful. There's nothing like discovering new repertoire or going to a new place to inspire you. Like I even now, I'm starting to work on some new pieces, and it's just like a whole new world opens up for me, and I don't realize how tired I am of practicing the same old tired repertoire.
You can't do it, because then when you are playing too much the same stuff, it loses its freshness, Then you're just playing it. Oh no, again this I don't want. The new piece really creates a lot of. It can really open your brain to find out something new, and when you find out something new in one piece, then you can try to apply it for another pieces, and it makes you a more rich person. Your imagination gets more rich, and of course for us, for the musicians, if we want to be better and better, we really have to still search for new ways to learn something new, to search for something new.
Marek, thank you so much for chatting with me. Folks, check out his website, MarekRomanowski.pl, and it's linked up in the show notes too. And I just want to say thank you for listening to this show. I get so much out of these conversations and doing them, and I just think it's such a cool spot we're in technologically that I can have these conversations and put them out to you. So thank you for following along. If you are not subscribed to the podcast, it's super easy. ContrabassConversations.com/subscribe has all sorts of options. You can also get on our email list, and we send out news of the week, a little bit about the podcast for that week, but some other info as well. It's a good way to stay connected with what's going on in the bass community. Contrabass Conversations is produced by Michael Cooper, Steve Hinksey, Trevor Jones, and Mitch Mooring. Mitch Mooring's making beautiful basses in the Dallas area. Learn more at mitchmooring.com. And thank you to Krista Copper, who is archiving and cataloging all these conversations so we can revisit different topics in the future. I'm your host, Jason Heath, coming to you each and every week from San Francisco, California, and we will see you again soon for more life on the low end of the spectrum.